What's up, everybody? We back again. It's your boy DP, your boy KC. We're back with some more NHL content again, but this time we're doing a season prediction, divisional prediction to see how we think the NHL season is going to play out. So basically, we're going to go through each division, kind of list our top teams, who we think what's what with which team, see who the top dogs are, who the playoff teams are, and then kind of finish it off with who we think is going to be there at the end in the Stanley Cup Finals and who's going to win it all. So we're going to start in the Metro division. So Kyle, who are your teams coming out of that division?
Well, after watching last year and how hot this team got towards the end of the year, and they were pretty scary coming into the playoffs, I'm going to go with New Jersey Devils leading the Metro this year. They got a young team. I think they're going to take that next step. They were phenomenal last year, and they got super hot towards the end of the year into the playoffs. They beat the Rangers in that first series before losing in the next round. So I'm going to go with New Jersey leading the pack in the Metro. Then you're going to go with I'm going to go with Carolina Hurricanes. Always a nice, stable, crafty veterans, good goaltending. They're always a top team in the Metro, and I believe they will be a top team again this year. And then the number 3, I'm going to go with a little bit of a side pick here. I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Penguins coming in 3rd. I just think that this is the year that they stay healthy. I think they got Carlson, which is a huge addition. Hopefully Jerry stays healthy and balls out like he did a couple years ago. But if they can stay healthy, that team is still one of the best in the league, even though they're one of the oldest in the league. So I'm gonna say that's my top 3 in the Metro right there. Who do you got, DP?
Okay, for my top 3 in the Metro, my number 1 is going to be the Carolina Hurricanes. They've just been a great all-around team, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years. They got a great head coach, Rob Brindamore. Carolina's as a team, I think, that can compete for the President's Cup trophy this year.
Oh, absolutely. Great fan base, too, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. The Caniacs. I think compete for the President's Cup, President's Trophy, whatever the heck it's called. So they're my number 1 team. Number 2, I'm going with the New Jersey Devils. Very young team, very explosive, high-scoring team. And then for my 3rd team, coming out of the Metro, I have the New York Rangers, Patty Kane, Artemi Panarin, Shesterkin is a great goaltender. If all those guys can stay healthy, if Patty Kane can produce, like we know he can, there's no reason the Rangers can't be a playoff team this year. And then as a wild card team, though, I have the Penguins coming in as a wild card team out of the Metro. So those are my teams out of that division.
Yeah, I had the New York Rangers as the wild card team from the Metro too.
Okay, gotcha.
I think those 4. I think you're right. Me and you are right there. I think that's the 4 right there. That's going to be in the playoffs.
I would agree. All right, let's go over to the Atlantic. So I'll start off with this one. The Atlantic was a very interesting division last year. Obviously, you had Boston, who was the President's Trophy winners, and they ended up getting knocked out in the first round by the Panthers, who were also in the Atlantic. The Panthers were a wild card team. Boston lost their captain, Patrice Bergeron, so we'll see how Brad Marchand can step into that role. But as far as my top 3 teams coming out of the Atlantic this year, my number 1 team is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think they're going to have a great year again this year, kind of bounce back after a lackluster year last year, again, losing in the first round to Toronto. My number 2 team is going to be the Florida Panthers. Coming off a cup run last year, I think they can ride that momentum with guys like Tkachuk, Barkov, Ekblad, Bobrovsky, and net. I think they got a solid all-around lineup, a good power play also. Good defenseman. My number 3 team is going to be the is going to be the Boston Bruins. I think they will still get into the playoffs. They have a lot of the same great players still with, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak. They have great goaltending too, two good goaltenders. And then a little bit of a surprise this year as a wild card team, I have the Detroit Red Wings coming in as a wild card team. They made some good offseason acquisitions this year. They signed Alex DeBrincat, who was with the Blackhawks, and he was with Montreal last year. Great player. They got him, their captain Dylan Larkin, and those are two guys who are from Detroit. Dylan Larkin went to the University of Michigan, so I feel like those are guys who, they have a lot of pride playing for the Red Wings. Growing up in Detroit as Red Wings fans. Detroit's always a gritty team, and I feel like hockey's just better in general when the Red Wings are good. And I think they'll surprise some people this year. So I got the Red Wings coming in as a wild card team.
I mean, that pick for the Red Wings, and you're right, man. Hockey's definitely better when the Red Wings are better. They're just one of those like iconic teams in hockey. Those red and white sweaters, they had the same sweaters for years. Like everybody, it's just better whenever hockey's better whenever the Red Wings are good. And you're right, they had some great moves, and they got a lot of young talent. So I don't mind that pick at all. But for my Atlantic picks, I got I think you're missing one team in particular there. We'll get into it. But I got Tampa coming in first as well for the Atlantic. I just think that team is just too good not to get back to the top. And if they can stay healthy, they got so many goal scorers on that team. And once Samsonov comes back, they're going to have great goaltending again. So, that's my number one team in the East. My number two is I'm going with Florida Panthers. I'm right there with you. After a big cup run, their confidence has got to be through the roof. They got a ton of goal scorers. They're still young. If Bobrovsky can, that's the question mark. If Bobrovsky can play a whole season how he played in the playoffs, that Panthers team is one of the toughest teams to beat in the entire league. But I got to see it. I got to see it for a full season. And, like I said, he looked great in the playoffs last year, but in the regular season, he was on and off. He got benched for a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see if he can be consistent all year. But my third team in the Atlantic that I think you're missing and you're sleeping on, and I hate this team personally because I can't stand their fan base, but the Toronto Maple Leafs. They got so many goal scorers on that team between Tavares, Matthews. They got a great goalie, and I think that they're one of the. They're kind of like Edmonton. They're gonna score a ton of goals, but because they play that fast pace, they're gonna let up a lot of fast break goals. I just think that team has too much firepower on the team not to make the playoffs. And then my wild card team, I'm gonna go with a team that kind of like after they got eliminated was kind of fire for a little bit, and they were still on the brink of making it. They had a very slim chance, but they got missed the cut. But they won 8 games in a row at one point, and that is the Ottawa Senators.
Oh, wow.
I love what I saw from them at the end of the season last year. They got a lot of young talent, and I think they pick up right where they left off, and they'll make that last push. And personally, I don't think Boston's going to make it. I think they have too many changes in that locker room, losing too many veteran guys, and I honestly think that Taylor Hall is a huge loss for them. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think Boston's going to be a little lost this year, especially start out the season.
Fair enough. Those are definitely valid points. I like what you said about Ottawa though, because I was looking at Ottawa a lot too, and I was like, they might be able to do something this year.
Yeah, they won 7 or 8 games in a row at the end of the season, and they needed a bunch of people to lose to make it, and it was very slim chances, but they almost did. They almost made it.
Yeah, you're right. All right, let's go back. Let's go down to the West now. I guess we'll start in the Central Division. You'll go. You can go first this time.
You said the Central?
Yeah, Central.
Oh, I mean, you got to go Colorado first.
Yeah.
Especially if they get what's his name? Landstock.
Landeskog.
Landeskog comes back. I mean, with Maker and all them. I mean, man, they got so much firepower on that team. They got great goaltending, great defense. I mean, that team is one of the best in hockey, and I would love for them to come back and make a, it was a disappointment last year getting knocked out in the first round, but they were not healthy going into the series, and I think they're going to want to bounce back big this year. Next, I got the Dallas Stars, another young, fun, a lot of goal scoring. That's a great team to watch. It's a lot of fun. I'm not a big fan of Dallas personally, but their jerseys are pretty fire. But yeah, they got a lot of good young scorers, and they got pretty good goaltending over there as well. And then next, I'm going to go with a little bit of a veteran team that nobody really talks about, but they make it every year. And Minnesota. I'm going to go Minnesota. Yeah, they just got good goal scorers, and they're always, in the middle of the pack every year. And I think they're going to be in the middle of the pack again this year.
All right. Those are 3 teams.
Oh yeah, and then I got Winnipeg. Sorry, coming out of the wild card for there.
So I have almost the exact same thing except for the last team. But to kind of relay on what you said, Colorado obviously has got to be the number 1 team coming out of the Central. I mean, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Gabriel Landeskog. I mean, all these guys are elite players, top-tier players, and I think Colorado is going to probably just run through the Central, and they'll probably be another team competing for the President's Trophy too. So, obviously, very tough team to compete against. Dallas also have them at second. Jason Roberts. So Jason Robertson kind of stormed onto the scene last year as a young guy. Was one of the top goal scorers, point scorers in the league last year. So kind of look for him to come.
He lit lighting the lamp up like crazy last year, man. He came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. So look for him to exceed his expectations this year and kind of take his game up a notch. And then third, obviously, got the Minnesota Wild. Pulling for our boy Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury up there in Minnesota.
Yes, sir.
But for my wild card team coming out of the Central, I'm going with the Nashville Predators. And I'm taking Nashville because they are kind of one of those teams I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on. They have a lot of young talent. They have a new head coach this year. But this guy is, I forget the guy's name, but he's very intense, high intensity. He likes to, push the envelope and forecheck and play hard. And when you have a young team, I think that's very important to play aggressive and not sit back. You have to take it to the other team especially when you might not be as talented as the opposition. So, and Nashville's one of those places, one of those buildings where it's not easy to go into and win. They have a really good fan base.
They just stadium, I think, too.
Was that?
I think they just finished their new stadium too.
I don't know, maybe. I think they're still playing in the same arena this year, but I think they're on the verge of getting a new one because they've been playing in the same arena since they came into the league. Yeah. But either way, I mean that's a tough barn to go into and play, especially if you get into a playoff series with them. That place is rowdy. That place is always rocking. So I'm going Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, and Nashville to come out as a wild card.
Yeah, I just think that Winnipeg has a lot more goal scorers. But I mean, Winnipeg, they're like a middle of the road team. They could have easily, missed the playoffs there at the end. But I don't know. I just think that they got enough goal scorers to make it back again. I feel like that's another one of those mid-tier teams like Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Winnipeg making it in. It's just like I feel like they're always one of those teams that they get in and then
They get bounced.
they're
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
They're either the first or second round. So
Yeah, I didn't want to pick it just because I felt like that was the 4 teams that already made it last year, and I wanted to pick a new team, but I was just like, I don't know. I just like I said, I was like they got some solid goal scorers on that team. It just seems like they can't make that next step.
yeah, I mean, when you look at the other teams in that division, like St. Louis,
Yeah,
they always have a chance to be a good team. The Coyotes,
you
who
never.
knows? They're always kind of bottom of the league team, and they play in an arena that only seats 5,000 fans, so they don't really have a great home environment or
I was
fan in
thinking
general.
too. Kings could make.
And then, the Blackhawks, I mean, who knows this year with Bedard? Obviously, they finished last year. That's how they got the first pick. But with Bedard and, they signed veteran guys like Corey Perry and Taylor Hall, I mean, who knows how it goes for the Blackhawks. So we'll see. I like the Blackhawks. Like, the Blackhawks are one of my favorite teams, especially in the West. So I'm kind of pulling for the Blackhawks, but I think what would be most beneficial for them would sort of be for Connor Bedard to have a great year, sort of maybe win the Calder as the Rookie of the Year, but still be in a position to get a lottery pick to where they can get another top prospect to play alongside of him for the future.
I just don't think they have enough to make a playoff push. I feel like they'll be like. I feel like they'll be close, but like they'll fizzle out at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, they could be one of those teams that kind of comes out and starts hot, but I don't think they really have what it takes to play an 82 game season and go.
Exactly.
But they're one of those teams that can just kind of pop off any given night.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
but
A lot of young talent. They can play that run and gun type offense on the
yeah,
offense.
they got a lot of speed. Bedard he's probably already one of the fastest skaters in the NHL. Probably one of the best. Just has one of the natural releases, one of the best natural shots too. So he's only going to get better.
If they play like Edmonton does and say screw the defense and just let's press the puck, they could be dangerous.
They could. Speaking of Edmonton, we'll go over to the Pacific now. So I guess I'll go first. So my top three, I think this is a very like top heavy division, the Pacific. I think in the top, it's really going to be a two-headed race at the top between Vegas and Edmonton. But I think Vegas will ultimately come out on the number one spot in the Pacific, and then Edmonton will be right below them. Vegas is one of those teams, they don't really have like a superstar player, but they have a solid all-around team. Meanwhile, Edmonton's kind of the opposite. They have two like legit superstar top like S tier players with McDavid and Draisaitl, and they kind of rely on those guys to do a lot of their scoring. So, I mean, without a doubt, those will be the top two teams. Vegas, I think, will be one. Edmonton will be two. Coming in at third, though, I have the LA Kings. The Kings are they're very similar, I think, to the Penguins, to where their core players are getting older, but they have a lot of playoff experience. Guys that have won multiple Stanley Cups. So, I mean, it's hard to count out a team like that when you got guys like Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar who have gone the distance, made multiple deep playoff runs. So I think the Kings will be a playoff team again this year. And then as a wild card team, it was tough. I was looking at either Calgary. I think Calgary has what it takes to make it, but I think Seattle will squeak back in as a wild card team again this year. So Seattle is going to be my fourth and my last wild card team in the West.
All right. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I'm right there with you in the Pacific. Like I said, we talked about this earlier before. It's a two-headed race in the Pacific between Vegas and Edmonton, and you hit everything right on the head. And for the love of God, if the Oilers could get a decent goalie, you know how that team would be?
They'd be so much better.
Oh my God, they would break the Bruins record. If they just had a goalie.
And some defense.
Like, geez, man, what does it take? I mean, they would have had like 4 more Stanley Cups at this point. It sucks because Connor McDavid's literally the best thing I've ever seen on the ice. Like, I mean, Bernard could probably get to that point, but from watching McDavid the past like 6 years, 7 years, or whatever it's been, that dude is just unreal. He makes people look so slow on the ice. Yeah, so I got Vegas at 1, but Edmonton's number 2. I mean, Vegas just has all around such a great team. Aiden Hill, I mean, what a stud that he's been since the playoffs. So they got 2 great goalies over there in Vegas, and Edmonton. They sure as hell could use one of those goalies, but they'll, especially from Vegas. But no, yeah, Vegas just being the all around team, they'll be number 1. Great talent all across their board. They're one like lines 1 through 4 can all score a goal on that team, and then Edmonton just so powerful, so top heavy between their 2 stars scoring all the goals basically. But my number 3, I'm gonna go with Seattle. I think that watching Seattle last year, they just put it together. They like everything meshed so perfectly last year. They figured it out, and I think they're on that emotional high from making the playoffs for the first time and winning that first series. And I think that they just ride that wave, and they'll be a tough team in the West here. I honestly think that they have a chance to compete with Vegas and Edmonton to get that like kind of top spot almost. But my wild card team is a team that you just talked about that disappointed last year, but I think they're gonna be just like Seattle and figure it out this year with the Calgary. I mean, getting Huberdeau and Mo Wagner didn't really work out for them last year. They look kind of lost, but I think this is the year that they figure it out, put it together. They got too much talent on that team not to make the playoffs again, in my opinion. So, and plus, I would love to see an Edmonton versus Calgary playoffs again.
Oh yeah, Battle of Alberta, baby.
Yeah, I mean the fights and the goals in that game would be unreal.
Definitely. All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. If you had to make a prediction for the 2024 Cup Finals, what's 2 teams do you have making it, and who wins it?
Oh, what 2 teams I have making it?
Yeah, if you had to predict now.
I'm gonna go with a newer team that hasn't been there in the East. I'm gonna go with New Jersey this year. As a little bit of a surprise. I mean, a lot of great teams that have a lot of like veterans on it, but I love what I saw from New Jersey, and I think they got enough talent to overthrow some of these kingpins that are in the East between like Toronto, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Tampa. So I'm gonna go with New Jersey, and I mean I love to pick Florida, but I don't trust Bobrovsky enough to get a full season out of him. So I'm gonna go with New Jersey making it, and then they're gonna play against Colorado again this year.
Okay.
I just think that Colorado, they have that sour taste in their mouth after last year's kind of a disappointment, but they had all those injuries. But it's not. I mean, it's still a disappointment when you're 1 seed and you lose. But I think they're gonna bounce back, and I like Colorado this year, and I'm gonna say that Colorado wins it again this year.
Okay, I like it. So for my prediction, I was thinking about taking Colorado out of the West, but I sort of changed my mind since you said Colorado. So I got a little bit of something else up my sleeve.
Okay.
I'm I think history is going to repeat itself a little bit if you go back to 2005. So I think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to win the President's Trophy, and they're going to come out of the East. And they are going to have a rematch of the 2005 Stanley Cup Finals against the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And the Colorado Hurricanes will win that series in 6 games.
The Colorado Hurricanes?
Or the Carolina Hurricanes, whatever. You know what I mean.
Whoa, did they merge?
Not yet. But yeah.
Carolina, I was really thinking Carolina too. I mean, the Metro Division is just so stacked, man. It's that division literally there's like 1 through 6 in that division could make the playoffs.
Oh, for sure. And even you got Washington with Ovechkin and back all those guys. Evgeny Kuznetsov. I mean, you can never really count out Ovi and the Caps as long as he's still in the league. So
yeah,
it's a very solid all-around division. I mean, the Flyers and the Blue Jackets are kind of going to be bottom feeder teams again this year. Probably lottery teams again. But I think 1 through 6 in that division, I think any of those teams have a chance to make the playoffs.
I agree. But let us know what you guys think about our predictions and who you guys got in your Stanley Cup final and who's going to win this. Talk to you later. See you.